Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of thetotalscreen.com. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we have a few topics to go over. We got some news stories. Got a few things I've been watching that we're going to go over kind of loosely. Got some stuff coming up on the horizon, including a big show coming up, the night we're recording this, like the next day, there's a big show coming out. And then we're going to go full spoilers in our discussion of The Witcher Season 2. Let's kick things off with our news segment on Beat. On Beat, of course, is our news segment, and we got a few stories to go over. Let's start things off. Disney has moved Pixar's Turning Red from a theatrical release to a Disney Plus release.
Yeah, that's weird. I haven't really looked into it. I mean, I don't know the reason they did this, to be honest. I mean, I saw, the trailer they showed, or I guess, teaser, for Turning Red. It looked fine. It looked like a Pixar movie. It didn't look like it was anything that was low budget or anything compared to their other outputs. So I'm not sure why Disney suddenly decided that this didn't deserve a theatrical run.
I wonder if that's it. It could be that they thought this is not going to do well and they don't want the embarrassment of it not doing well, so they're just going to put it out digital.
Yeah.
That could be it, but there could also be, it could just be them experimenting.
Yeah, I guess so.
Maybe they just don't want to put something out right now. Maybe they looked at it and said, maybe it'll do well, maybe it won't. We have, Scream's coming out soon and Spider-Man's still tearing up the box office.
Yeah, but
maybe they're just kind of there really isn't a good place for it or something.
Kids films. Those don't compete with kids films though, so it's weird.
But it's also an early movie this year, so kids are in school again, and it's, I don't know. Then you have, Omicron and stuff, which I doubt was the reasoning, but we don't know what their reasoning was.
Yeah, I'm not Omicron, I don't know if I would buy that as a reason either, because it seems like studios are kind of over caring about that, especially now with Spider-Man box office numbers. They've gotten the impression oh yeah, it doesn't matter.
I think 4 years ago, a move like this would mean one thing and one thing only. The studio just doesn't have confidence in it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly.
That would be the only reason. But things are just kind of weird right now.
Because, this is, essentially going direct to video.
Yeah. There's a lot of experimentation going on now, though. I brought it up before when we were talking about, HBO Max's deal and how they were showing original movies and how they're doing, not just their day and dates with theatrical, but the Batgirl movie and stuff. That, some of it could be, leverage against movie theater, saying, the kind of show, we can make money without you kind of thing.
Right.
And that they're doing that as occasional leverage cases. And it could be experimentation to see how well it does. Because sometimes, as absurd as it sounds to us, to go oh, they're going to lose a revenue scheme. The research alone, the data that they gather might be worth it. To do something
and there's also I guess there's also this factor now that we are in an age where these companies have streaming services and they want to fill these services with content and try to do what they can to make them more attractive for people to subscribe.
And they own the content and they own the streaming service, so it's a direct benefit to them. It's not like they're selling it to Netflix or something for streaming.
Right.
Right. They're putting it on their own streamer.
Right. In which case, I would assume Disney would rather put this in theaters and sell it to Netflix if Netflix was still the only game in town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting to see why they're doing this, and we're probably never going to have a real picture of why. It's always going to just be guesswork, but.
Yeah, we don't know why.
Regardless, if you're looking forward to Turning Red, now you can just watch it on Disney Plus.
There you go. That's the plus side for, no pun intended, for everybody.
I thought it looks pretty insufferable, personally.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think the animation, everything was fine.
I thought it looked cute. I
don't know. When it opened up with the kids, doing a freestyle rap thing, and I was very put off. I'm not interested in that at all, but like, I just thought it was interesting news, that they shifted that. Cause this isn't like some random animation studio Disney, this is Pixar,
Yeah, it's Pixar. Yeah, it's like one of their biggest animation studios.
Yeah.
Like outside of Walt Disney Animation themselves.
Yeah. Our next story also has to do with animation, and that is that Netflix is going to be making a animated series for Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere. That's interesting. I do like Scott Pilgrim.
Have you read the comics for Scott Pilgrim?
Yeah, some of them. I don't think I read all the volumes. I watched the movie. I played the video game.
Yeah, my only experience was with the movie, which I love, but I attribute that almost more to Edgar Wright than to like the source
Edgar
material.
Wright did a great job with it. Yes, he did. I think source material is also fine.
I just don't have experience with the source material.
I think this will, I mean, obviously, like, given the style of Scott Pilgrim, I think animation is a more natural transition than a live action movie was. As good as it turned out.
Well, it's a pretty cartoony.
Yeah, it's pretty cartoony.
Comic book. Like it wasn't like a Marvel or DC comic with like realistic looking, it's pretty cartoony looking, So.
Yeah, so this is kind of like a more natural transition, I think. So, I mean,
I'm looking forward to it. Like
I don't see how they could screw it up, to be honest.
When I said like that I attribute the movie being good more to Edgar Wright than the source material, I'm saying that from the position of somebody who's never read the source material. So I don't know. So I think this is probably going to give you a truer example.
Also, like it was always going to be a challenging thing to translate that to a live action film.
Yeah.
And I think Edgar Wright did that with aplomb.
Yeah. I have no experience with the source material, so for me it's like, this will be cool because it'll give me a chance to get something that's probably closer to the source material, I'd imagine.
Yes.
Next news story we have up, a trailer was dropped and a launch date announced for Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Before we talk about the trailer or anything, it's going to be launching on March 25th.
Yep. Nintendo loves March as a release date. Now, when they announced this at E3 last year, I believe it was the E3 Direct.
Was it E3 or was it one of their regular directs? I think it might have been their September. Was it September or August Direct?
Yeah, it was the September Direct. Announcement trailers from September.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought it was was their big reveal thing because they didn't really have too terribly much else.
Yeah, so when they announced this in September, they announced it for a spring date, and immediately in my head, I went, that's March. And I was not wrong. It's just because Nintendo likes March. If you go back, like, just like the Switch era, Nintendo's always had a big release in March.
It's the beginning of the fiscal year. So I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah.
That a lot of times they'll say like, oh, this is like this year kind of launch window or launch time for the game. And they mean like all the way into possibly March, because that's the fiscal year.
Yeah, it's the beginning of the fiscal year.
Yeah. So I think that has a lot to do with it, why Nintendo's really always been pretty big on March.
They like to start the fiscal year with a bang.
Yeah. It's an interesting trailer because, it's got co-op and stuff.
This is the first 3D, like fully 3D Kirby, adventure game.
Well, that's fully 3D, but it seems to be 3D in the way like the 3D world, like Mario 3D World is.
Not really.
Because it had kind of fixed perspectives that you could rotate.
Yeah, it does look like that, but like again, it's like full 3D movement through like the different areas. Kirby games were always like on a linear 2D plane, even if they had like 3D graphics.
The closest was like Air Ride, right?
Yeah, I think
that was like the closest to being a 3D game, but that was kind of not really a Kirby game. It was like a racing game kind of,
So like it was kind of surprising, but this looks like fully like a traditional Kirby game. Yeah.
I mean, they even show like Meta Knight at the end and.
Yeah, this shows like everything you would expect in like one of the traditional Kirby platformer games this year. It's just now you got full 3D movement. I'm surprised it took them this long to do that.
Mm-hmm. The tone's a little different. Like when they showed the trailer, everybody was making the joke about like, oh, this is The Last of Us Kirby or whatever, But like in this trailer, it seemed much lighter in tone in this trailer.
Yeah, it's
I mean, the last trailer really wasn't that dark. People just kind of...
No, it wasn't that dark. It's because
because of the post-apocalyptic kind of looking.
Yeah, the post-apocalyptic imagery. Like, it's Kirby of the Forgotten Land, so this is a world that has been abandoned or hasn't been lived in. And it's an interesting juxtaposition because now the characters inhabiting this abandoned world are like all these cute characters, and you see them doing things like, oh, they have like carnival prizes and they have tea and stuff.
It even ends with like Kirby and one of the other guys chilling on a roof on those like lawn chairs, or not lawn chairs.
Yeah, chilling on.
Yeah, you call those things you lay on. They put them by the side of like pools or whatever.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's just funny to see that. Despite the fact that there are hints that this takes place after some sort of apocalypse, it's not supposed to be dark in tone.
No,
it was never supposed to be.
But the first trailer, it was a little bit I wouldn't say it was somber or anything, but it did those long shots of the beach and a long shot of
yeah.
And this is just kind of really punchy and typical Kirby cutie. The music was very vibrant and upbeat. It was very if the last trailer had never existed and we'd never seen that, I don't think anybody would be making those same comparisons. Because even though you can look and see it's like a city that's being taken back by nature or something, it's so de-emphasized in this trailer that that wouldn't stand out to people.
Right. Maybe it might stand out more when you start to play the actual game.
Yeah.
And it could be more of just how this trailer was edited.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I also thought was adorable is how Kirby says hi to everybody. Hi.
Yeah, I think it looks good. I'm still not 100% sold on it. This is a game I'm probably just going to wait and see how people react. I'll wait for reviews to come out.
I don't know. I think if you enjoy Kirby platformers, then
I enjoy them sometimes.
Yeah.
So for me, that's where it falls. It looks very promising to me. I'm looking at it and I'm this could be a lot of fun. Maybe not.
Kirby's Adventure on the NES is one of my favorite games on that platform. So Kirby games on Super Nintendo were good. I haven't played any Kirby games since Super Nintendo actually, because I never got around to playing Kirby 64 or anything. But
Epic Yarn.
Yeah, I haven't played that either.
Yeah. I'm optimistic. I'm just going to wait and see what people say. I'm not going to get this day one. I'll wait a little bit. I'll see how people are reacting to it. And if it looks like it's really positive, if there's certain things are calling out to me, then I'm going to get the game. But right now I'm still kind of on a wait and see approach on that game.
I think it looks like a winner.
It's a day one for you?
It's looking like it.
Okay. Our next piece of news, the Final Destination movie series. It's been gone for a little bit now. It's not too old of a series, but
they said the last movie was
for a while.
Final Destination, so they lied.
Well, they're bringing it back. They're bringing back the Final Destination movies, and these ones are going to be produced by Jon Watts, who is the director of the MCU Spider-Man movies. He's not directing these, at least not yet. He's not signed on yet to direct any of these. He's going to be producing them, though. He's going to be involved in them reviving this franchise, which is interesting because he's really good. Jon Watts seems to be really, really good at making movies, with his Spider-Man movies at least, where you have these kind of likable teenagers and having the kind of conversations and getting in their headspace and making that kind of interesting. And so I could see that being really interesting with Final Destination. Of course, it'd be a much darker tone of a movie.
Yeah, it would be a much
but it wouldn't
tone,
just, I think with Jon Watts handling it, it would be less oh, here's horrible shit happening to teenagers, and more here's horrible shit happening to these characters that you like.
Yeah, because I think a big weakness that a lot of horror movies end up having is you end up making the cast just unlikable.
Disposable. Literally.
Just disposable. Literally. Yeah. They're just people there to get killed. And I think it works a lot better if they let you develop emotional attachments, actually make you care for these characters and then start to kill them off. I think that
brutally murder them.
I think that has more of an impact, right? So
yeah. It's an interesting pick for somebody to be involved in, we'll just have to see how that goes. Outside of Spider-Man, I don't really have much experience with the works of Jon Watts.
Same.
And he's also he's still doing that Fantastic Four movie too, right? He's
still attached to that, as far as I know.
So so he's probably not going to be directing based on that.
Yeah.
He's probably just going to be producing, but even still, he's an interesting person to be attached to this kind of series. Our next piece of news relates to what we're going to be talking about in full spoilers, which is The Witcher. Season 2 is now the 8th most watched Netflix show. This is from their metric, meaning just the first 28 days. So they check how many views they get within the first 28 days, and that's what they attribute it to. I think this is also not the full list. This is all the English language shows, I believe. but it came in number 8. This is their all time. So the number 1, I think, is either Bridgerton or one of the Stranger Things seasons. And Witcher season 1 is number 3 on this list, which means that season 2 did not do as well as season 1, but it still did well enough to crack their top 10.
Right.
So yeah, that's just Netflix top 10 news. Not too terribly much else to say about that, but, I figured I'd bring it up since we're talking about The Witcher anyways.
Exactly.
And then our last piece of news is the Golden Globe Awards happened. That kind of just popped up out of nowhere, and I didn't even notice it until I saw stories about people winning, and I'm like, what? Like, that happened?
I mean, I don't know. Like, the Golden Globes are so irrelevant to me, but
yeah,
you can go over that.
We're not going to go over everybody who won and everybody who lost and everything in this episode. We're just going to talk about 3 of the winners. And that's 1 case because it's historical, and 2 cases because they're the kind of stuff we talk about on this podcast. So first off, for the historical win is Michaela J. Rodriguez is the first trans actress to win for Best Actress. And she won for Best Actress in a drama TV series for Pose. This is historical. This is the first time this has happened.
Yeah.
So that's interesting just on that alone. So it's cool. And then the next 2 ones for Best Supporting Actor in TV, Oh Young-soo won for Squid Game. He was the old man.
I think that's appropriate. I cried when I thought he died. Like, that's the only character, like, I genuinely got sad over, like, their death.
And then you said, you asshole, you made me cry.
Yeah, exactly. He was a freaking asshole. So, yeah, spoilers for Squid Game.
I feel safe in it now. It's been a while.
Right.
And then for Best Original Score, Motion Picture, Hans Zimmer won for the score for Dune, which is a really cool score. It had like throat singing.
Yeah, it's a good score.
They did a lot of stuff that's like rooted in like traditional musics in the world, traditional world musics, but in such a way that it came across as very alien, which I thought was really cool, the way they did that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, one for that, for Dune. And that's it for our news segment. Let's move on now to On Tap.
What we've been watching. What we've been playing. What's on tap?
On Tap is our segment where we talk about stuff we've been watching or playing, but not in full spoilers, just kind of like an abbreviated discussion. And I have 2 things that I'm bringing up. One is a movie and one is a show. Both are like spy-related shows or movies. First up, I watched The King's Man, which is the prequel to the King's Men movies. There were 2 of those. This one takes place in and around World War I. It was good. It was a lot of fun, but there's a few issues that are placed. I think the main villain turned out to be rather weak, not that interesting. The villain that I knew was going to be enchanting and amazing to watch was Rasputin, and he was all of those things and more, and he was barely in the movie.
Oh, well, that's disappointing.
Yeah, he should have been the main villain of the movie. He was fascinating. He was like, it was a great portrayal. He was creepy. He had like the best action scene was around his character when they were fighting him and stuff. He was amazing. It was like the height of the whole movie. And then that was it. It was like, went downhill from there. That was it. For a few other things, there was a cool like knife fight between the trenches, like in a scene that was really cool. But for the most part, it's kind of a missed opportunity. If they had kind of put more of the focus on the Rasputin angle, it would have been a much more entertaining watch, in my opinion. And then the next thing I watched was Alex Ryder, which is it's kind of like a teenager is a spy, but actually done well.
Right.
This isn't like Cody Banks, like that. Like in the middle, yeah, this isn't like that. Crap. This is like a legit, like good espionage series where the main character is this like teenager who gets roped into it and stuff.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So this is the 2nd season. First season was good. 2nd season, I'm still watching it. I'm towards the end, but it's been really entertaining. They are doing one thing that's kind of annoying. So it has the inaccuracies that you always get whenever a movie or show tries to cover like a video game. As you well know, whenever like a movie is like, oh, the main character is like an evil guy who makes video games or something, you're like, okay, this is going to be bad. They're going to show like UI and interface for some fictional game and it's going to look horrible and nothing's going to like be remotely like what a video game is like. And there is a level of that in place here, unfortunately. But, I think you can get it around that. Like there's enough good stuff in there besides that it's still entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
And that's Alex Ryder. And that is our On Tap section. Our next segment is On the Horizon.
On the
On the horizon.
On the Horizons, where we talk about stuff that's coming up in the next week or so. This time we're going to be covering stuff coming out between tomorrow, meaning Thursday, January 13th. We're recording this on Wednesday. This podcast might not be out until Friday or Saturday, but, we're covering stuff starting on Thursday, going all the way through till Friday, January 21st. So that's the kind of stuff, the content we're covering. So first up, tomorrow, Thursday, January 13th, Peacemaker comes to HBO Max. We're going to be talking about this probably next week on the podcast.
Yeah, that's
depending on how it's released. If the whole season comes out, we'll wait a little bit before we discuss it. But if it's coming out week to week or something, then we'll be talking about this next week. Peacemaker, very excited for that. For anybody who doesn't know, Peacemaker is the TV series spin-off of the Suicide Squad, the James Gunn one. And this series was also done by James Gunn. He wrote and directed the whole series, I believe.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I mean, it's got James Gunn's, sense of humor, all over it.
Yeah, it feels very James Gunn.
Yeah.
It's basically giving a lot more depth to the Peacemaker character played by John Cena in the movie. I'm excited for it. It looks good. Next up, also on January 13th, Wolf Like Me comes to Peacock. Okay. I don't know too terribly much about this series. The one thing I have heard, though...
I know nothing about this.
And this is also the reason I don't know too much about it, is it's being described as a genre-bending surprise.
Okay.
This is one of those shows that people say go in mostly blind, and it'll be cool. And that's one of those things I'm like, this could be very good, or it could be very disappointing. We'll see what it is. But that's Peacock, also Thursday, January 13th. Wolf Like Me. On Friday, January 14th, Afterlife returns on Netflix. This is the Ricky Gervais comedy about I say comedy loosely in quotation marks, I guess, about a man whose wife passed away and he's basically suicidal and he's just kind of continuing living on even though he's completely suicidal. And the whole concept of the show is...
Oh, sounds hilarious.
Well, the whole concept of the show is if you have nothing to lose and you just don't care what happens, then you have absolutely no filter. And that's kind of the idea of the show is that you have this character that basically he doesn't care. He can get confrontational with somebody because he doesn't really care.
This sounds miserable.
It's a comedy in quotation marks. So it actually is funny, but then at the same time it's depressing. It's both.
Also doubly miserable because I'm not a big fan of Ricky Gervais. So.
You're not a big fan of Ricky Gervais. This might not be for you, but it is a pretty good show, and this is I believe its third season.
Oh, okay. So this is a show that has been running.
Yes.
I've completely been unaware of this show.
Next up, we have Archive 81, which is also coming to Netflix, also on January 14th. And this is a horror series I believe it's a found footage horror series.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, also on Friday, January 14th, also on Netflix, is The House, which is described as a dark animated anthology series. So this is every episode is a separate story, and it's pretty dark and grim, but it's animated, and it's on Netflix.
Nice.
Next up on Friday, January 14th, The Tragedy of Macbeth. This is the Joel Coen movie. He made this without his brother, so it's not the Coen brothers. It's
okay.
But I don't know if you've seen ads for this, but it looks really good. It's
I haven't seen
black and white,
anything about
surreal. This. It's this weird, surreal black and white take on Macbeth done by one of the Coen brothers.
Okay.
And that's coming to Apple TV Plus. I think it already had a limited run in theaters, a very limited run, and then it's making its full debut now on Apple TV Plus instead. Then on Friday, January 14th, here's one for you, Will. Scream hits theaters.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's been getting really good early reviews.
I've been hearing stuff like best since the original. Which
yeah, good. I've been hearing stuff. I've been hearing that the trailers that they show are intentionally hiding the real meat of the experience. The trailers, I would say misleading, but from what I hear, there are surprises.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Have you ever seen Ready or Not?
I have not, but I need to.
So
that's what I do want to see.
For people who don't know, this version of Scream, this reboot / sequel version of Scream that's coming out is done by the directors of Ready or Not because obviously Wes Craven has passed away in between the time of the last Scream movie and this one. So obviously he didn't direct this one. Ready or Not was great though. So that's an interesting duo of directors to be handling the Scream franchise. I think it's in good hands.
Yeah.
On Monday, January 17th, the 4400 comes to the CW. This is a remake of an existing series that came out on USA, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
This is a CW show, though, so expect all the
CW.
Characters to be teenagers for some reason.
Yeah.
And lots
Expect
of
them to all be attractive teenagers.
and it's just lots of
triangles and exaggerated drama.
Yeah.
Melodrama.
Yeah, the 4400 was a good show, though, so maybe there's some hope. I don't know. I think some of the original people that made the 4400 are still involved in this, and behind the scenes, so maybe, there have been good shows on the CW. Supernatural was good,
Yeah.
The 100 was pretty good. It started to fall into some of those traps, but it was still a good show.
Sometimes the CW manages a good show.
Yeah. So we'll see how that ends up being. On Friday, January 21st, Ozark is returning on Netflix for its final season, or at least part 1 of its final season. Am I the only one sick of this shit? This season 5, part 1 bullshit.
Oh yeah, that stuff's stupid.
Why don't you just call it season 5 and season 6,
Yeah, exactly. I hate that.
Just say they're 2 shorter seasons. You don't have to when they come out in different years. There's enough time between them to just call them different seasons. But that's coming out on Friday, January 21st on Netflix. Also on that day, Servant returns on Apple TV+. This is the M. Night Shyamalan series that stars Rupert Grint from Harry Potter and some other people, presumably. I haven't watched it because I don't have Apple TV+, but a lot of people said it was a good show, and that's returning. On the same day as well, since this is the last day we're covering for On the Horizon, Operation Fortune Ruse de Guerre, I don't know. It's coming Friday, January 21st in theaters. This is the new Guy Ritchie film. Stars Jason Statham. So if you're into that, that's there. And then The King's Daughter also opening in theaters on Friday, January 21st. It's kind of like a dark kids fairy tale kind of thing. I think Pierce Brosnan is in it playing the king, and has to do with something he's trying to hunt and kill a mermaid to try to make some elixir that would make him immortal. But his daughter encounters the mermaid and bonds with it. So it's creating this weird situation now because he wants to kill it.
That sounds weird. Yeah.
It's one of those kind of modern fairy tale kind of thing,
Right.
But yeah, so that's on Friday, January 21st as well, like I said, in theaters. And that's it for On the Horizon. And that, of course, brings us to our final segment, Full Spoilers. Full Spoilers is the segment where we talk about a show in full spoilers. So if you have not watched The Witcher Season 2, now is the time to tune out because we're not holding back. We might not even cover certain aspects. We might not even hit all the spoilers, but we're not holding back. We're just going to talk about it openly with no concern about if you're spoiled or not because this was your warning. What did you think about The Witcher Season 2 in comparison to The Witcher Season 1?
I enjoyed it. In comparison to Season 1, I think it's about on par, if not maybe a little better. A big reason for that also is because this time it goes into a linear timeline,
The CG is also not as repugnant.
Yeah, CG isn't as repugnant. You're right, yeah.
Remember the dragon CG in the last season?
Well, they got a bigger budget for this season, clearly.
Yeah,
clearly the budget's been up, so the creatures look a lot better. Yeah. There was a fair bit of monster fighting in this too, which I liked.
Yeah, some of it better than others.
In between the political drama, there was some monster slaying, so that was good. I do like I said, this runs in a linear timeline now. There's a little meta joke with Jaskier where he's talking about his songs and he's to this guy there's this guy at the dock and he's talking to Jaskier he likes his music and stuff. Then he starts listing off the complaints he has. And he's and things didn't happen in a linear timeline in Jaskier's songs. I thought that was a funny meta reference to the first season. And I thought the actors did a great job. I thought Ciri was the big focus of the season, right? Just the major thing for this season was Ciri and, like, her destiny.
Ciri
and,
was
like,
the Kate Bishop of this season.
Yeah, the Kate Bishop of the
You
season.
came in for Geralt and you ended up with more Ciri.
You end up with more Ciri. Like, and everybody wants her. Everybody in the shows talk about Ciri.
Girls want to be her, guys just want her, or they want to, like, use her for political marriage.
Is that why? Yeah, use her for political marriage.
Her blood.
They want her blood. And then, like, the other subplot was the subplot with Yennefer losing her magic and trying to, like, deal with that and get it back. And this all ties up to one of the big things that happens is Yennefer and Francesca and Fringilla, they encounter this demon that takes, like, the form of a witch, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
This demon, like, gets into your psyche and, like, takes the form of, like, whatever is most dear to you and, like, uses that against you to kind of, like, force you into doing its bidding.
They think that they're getting prophecies from, like, this witch.
Yeah.
That the three of them need to bind together to meet out this prophecy so that they can get to the betterment of their races or their betterment of their lots in life or whatever. And that it's supposed to be beneficial for them, but it's really just this witch manipulating them. It's, like, actually a demon that's, like, locked up.
Yeah, it's locked up in this, like, hut. The demon is trying to free itself.
Mm-hmm. It feeds on despair, so it's trying to, like, create despair in the world enough that, like, there's enough pain that it can, you know, get powerful enough to break out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, this season in particular, going into it, there was a lot of comments from, like, the showrunner saying that, like, oh, they took the complaints of the fans and they addressed them. And it looked like they addressed these very surface level complaints, like, oh, people were complaining that Triss didn't have red hair like she did in the game, so they made her red haired in this one.
Right, yeah.
You know, like, they changed her hair color. Or, like, you know, they didn't like Geralt's clothes, so they changed Geralt's clothes, you know?
Right, yeah.
It was these very, like, surface level things that weren't necessarily the actual real problems with the show. And I think what got proven to me in this season more than anything is that the showrunner doesn't really know what they're doing with this. And that the only person who really knows what they're doing with this is Henry Cavill. And that is kind of proven by reports, some directly said by him and some said by other actors and stuff on the set, saying things like he would, like, you know, talk to one of the actors and say, hey, let's run this line that was in the books instead here. And Henry Cavill saying at one point that he made a change without permission. Like, he basically just didn't even talk to the showrunner or, you know, the director on set, just literally just changed something on his own because he knew it was better. And this is kind of like, it almost takes on the case for me where, like, this show is an example of, like, basically this show would have been a complete disaster, but Henry Cavill loved The Witcher so much that he, like, basically inserted himself into the whole process, not just as the lead actor, but, like, is, like, literally changing stuff to try to fix it. There have been, like, lines of dialogue that were changed from the book and made, like, kind of dumb, and he, like, changed them back on set, you know? Took it upon himself without permission. That's kind of what this season represents.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't use that to say the showrunner doesn't know what she's doing. I think she knows what she's doing. I think she cares about the material, you know, just as much as
you can
Henry
care about
Cavill.
the material and not know what you're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that because, like, again, like, the end product turned out very solid, so.
Not to me.
Not to you.
Yeah, not to me. I had lots of issues with it. There were a lot of, like, character motivations that didn't line up. A lot of, like, it's just stuff that just did not work. Sometimes it was small things like, you know, and I don't really know the source material well enough to know if it's because it's deviating from that or if it's just that the source material also, like, didn't agree with me.
Right.
I don't know it enough to really make a judgment on it. I do know that there have been a lot of complaints from people who do know the source material about one character in particular, and that's Eskel, who in the books and the games is, like, a fan favorite character. And in this, they brought in as, like, a moody little bitch who then just, like, immediately gets killed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like.
And fans were pissed about that, you know, because he's in the games and the books. He's, like, a fan favorite.
Yeah, when you do a fan favorite character dirty like that, that's bullshit.
So those who've watched the show and don't know who I'm talking about for some reason, you know, they showed a lot of, like, Geralt's, like, Witcher friends.
Yeah.
And one of them.
Yeah, because he goes back
infected with this, like, you know, tree monster or something. It's that guy. That's Eskel. And because he was infected, he was acting like an asshole the whole time he was there, which is apparently very outside of his character. character. And then he was like infected and became like a monster and then got killed. He was in like one episode. Yeah, people were not happy about that. You've read a little bit of the source material.
I just read like the first book of short stories.
Did you play Witcher 3 as well?
A little bit. I need to get back to that.
Do you have any experience with the character? That's where I'm leading with this.
With Eskel, no.
Outside of the series.
No.
Okay. Because I don't, like I said, I don't have any experience.
That didn't like ring with me because I didn't have any like major experience with that character prior. So
yeah,
like when you brought up like, oh, that's a fan favorite character from the books and TV, I'm like, bro, okay, well, yeah, bringing him in for like one episode, then immediately like turning him into a monster and killing him. That's doing him dirty. Then yeah.
Imagine if they had done that with like Oberyn Martell in Game of Thrones or something.
Right. They still did.
He just comes in
dirty, but yeah.
Well, that's it's the same way it happened in the books.
Yeah, same way. Yeah, it happens in the books
but
too.
Like,
so fine.
But like, imagine if he came in and was just completely out of character, like the way he acted and stuff. Like he was completely unlikable, whereas like he was actually very likable in the series and the books. Like,
right, yeah. Which is weird too, because like they made like the other Witchers likable.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, to some extent. I mean, some of them were acting kind of like assles the series.
Well, I mean,
at first.
They were
charming enough.
They have a right to
remember their names or anything.
They had a right to be skeptical.
Yeah.
To be honest. And, like, they have rough edges, but like, they turned out to be cool. They, even at the end of it, like, Ciri got possessed by the demon and like killed like several other Witchers, Even then, like, even at the end there, they were like, oh, okay, like, we're on board with like trying to save Ciri.
Yeah. Vesemir was okay.
Yeah.
I do have a little experience with Vesemir because they did do that animated prequel last year.
And speaking of that ending, I got surprised because I thought it was going to go like full drama to where like they were going to want to kill Ciri no matter what. And Geralt was like going to clash with them, like be like, oh, we got to save Ciri. And then that was going to lead to them like kicking Geralt out and like Vesemir and the other Witchers like hating his guts forever or some shit.
They kind of like, kind of did that, but kind of not. Like,
kind of not. They didn't really go there. Like,
they went there enough that Geralt like left.
Well, he has to leave.
Yeah.
Like, he realizes he can't just stay there because, like, people are looking for Ciri. They'll come there eventually. And that's what he says, basically. He says, like, we can't stay here because staying in one place just makes you a sitting duck, makes you a target.
Yeah, but it's also because Vesemir wasn't too happy with Ciri being there either anymore. After what happened. The only use, like, Vesemir had for Ciri anymore at the end was, like, her blood, and he kind of, like, was, lost his need for that,
Right.
After losing so many Witchers in that scene. But, yeah, it kind of, like, was the soft version of what you were afraid of. Like, that was still there. That sentiment was still there, just, like, a little bit softer than...
Right. Like I said, it didn't, like, go, like, full drama, like CW drama. like the CW version would have handled it.
I can't remember what it was, but I was watching some show with my mom just this last week, and something happened, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a thing now. Like, I just caught on. I can't even remember what show it was we were watching, but I was like, oh, this has now been set up as a thing that's going to happen. And now there's gonna be distrust because of this, and this is, oh, you know what it was? It was The Rookie, which is that show that Nathan Fillion's in now. And there was a plot line where, like, this, one police officer turned out to be pregnant. And I'm like, oh yeah, she slept with her ex-husband, so it's not gonna end up being her boyfriend's baby. And they're just totally, like, gonna hang that over us now. It's so obvious that that's the direction they're gonna go in. And it's like, it's just drama for the sake of drama, and it doesn't need to be there,
Right, yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not interesting drama, it's just drama,
Yeah, it's just drama to keep the drama going.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of, I get your feeling of relief that it isn't quite going in the full drama direction. I still think it's kind of going in that direction, just in a slightly softer way, a slightly softer approach, but it's still kind of hinting at that, like, Vesemir is not too happy with Ciri when the season ends, and he almost went after her to kill her, You could say that was just because it was a current threat, but there was more to it in his eyes, I think. He was pissed.
Right.
Yeah.
My two favorite characters, Jaskier's fantastic too. But my two favorite characters right now in the show are Geralt and Yennefer. I think their storylines are interesting. Their characters are interesting. I think both actors do a fantastic job with their roles, obviously. And that's where I'm at right now. I still find the show to be entertaining. Looking forward to season 3.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm mixed. What do you think about the trailer for
the spinoff? It looks cool. It looks cool. I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah, it's just without Henry Cavill.
Yeah, it just doesn't have Henry Cavill, but
it's crazy to me, just like I'll say it again, it's just crazy to me how important he is to this. I just don't think any of this works without him. And that's not that.
It doesn't have Henry Cavill, but it has Michelle Yeoh, so.
Yeah, but I don't know if this is, like I said, the part of why Henry Cavill is so important to the show isn't just that he's a good actor,
I enjoyed like the animated spin-off too.
The animated spin-off was pretty good. I thought the animated spin-off was a lot better than the show for the most part.
Oh, really?
Except for Henry Cavill. You know, Henry Cavill's great on the show. It's undeniable on the show.
We're gonna be watching like the new Game of Thrones spin-off, and you're gonna be like saying, if it doesn't have Henry Cavill, I'll be like, this has nothing to do with.
No, it's just like I think he's the only person who knows how this material should be handled, including all the people behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the only person involved in this project that cares about the material.
I mean, I disagree, but yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, like I watched around the same time this dropped, Wheel of Time was out, and Wheel of Time suffered too, like it had issues, but like there were bits, like the way it ended, for example, what it was teasing for season 2 of Wheel of Time was like such a massive elevated step above anything The Witcher's done that it's like, it was so notable, like you could feel it, because I'd be like going back and forth between episodes, and I was like, ooh, this is like a huge difference, like in quality and stuff, you know, like this is like clearly setting up something very, very interesting. And then I'm watching The Witcher and going through most of it. So I don't want to yuck your yum. I know you enjoyed it. I'll just say, yeah, I enjoyed Henry Cavill in this. Do you have anything else to say about the series? Because I want to give you a chance to talk about anything, any plot lines or any characters or actors or something that you want to talk about.
No, I think we went over everything. One thing I will note, it was cool seeing the Wild Hunt at the end of the season. That was a cool moment.
They did that set up.
Yeah.
A brief little tease. Obviously,
there's all the political drama happening with the elves and Nilfgaard and all that, the mages. So, there's a lot that's going to be happening in season 3. So looking forward to season 3 is what I will say, cap it off.
Yeah. But that's it. So thank you everybody for listening. We have one more order of business to get into before we end up the show, and that is the unfortunate news. Over the past couple of weeks, and we've been kind of having a regular podcast, where we haven't been on a regular schedule with them until, kind of this week. We did the best of last week where we did nothing else but that.
Yeah, this is
and then we had a break before that. But since then, there have been 3 kind of big deaths that have unfortunately occurred.
This is sad.
Betty White passed away. She was 99. That one is hard because she was going to turn 100 on the 17th of this
month. Was 99 is like, you're lucky if you make it 99. You're an extremely lucky person. I think of all people, Betty White certainly deserved to have a long life. And, glad she did. She was a wonderful, wonderful person. It's sad that she didn't live to see 100, but put in perspective, she still had a very long life, a very successul career. She managed to remain in the spotlight pretty much till the end.
She managed to remain relevant for a long time.
For a long time.
Yeah, not just for comedic roles and stuff, but also for her work in for animal charities and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we mourn the loss, but she had a great life. Yeah.
It's just kind of sad because they did have this whole 100th birthday celebration thing planned. For, 17th, and she just passed 17 days before. It's come out it was a stroke. So it just kind of happened quickly. And that's it, unfortunately.
Last
of the Golden Girls.
99. That's when you're that age, it's you can go at any moment. It's
that's the last of the Golden Girls, though. So.
Yep, that's the last of the Golden Girls. Yep.
The next death was kind of much more sudden.
Yeah, this was a surprise because Bob said, I believe, how old is he? Was in his 60s, right?
He was in his 60s, yeah. But he had just he had posted about Betty White's death on Twitter, and
right.
So it's he was still active communicating. He was on tour.
By all accounts, he was healthy up until his death. There was no signs that there was anything wrong with him medically.
Apparently, they've said they've kind of ruled out. They still have to do I think the full autopsy results else, but they've ruled out drugs and they've ruled out foul play kind of in general from based on the scene and stuff that's come out. So it just seemed like he kind of just died suddenly too.
It's crazy. Goddamn. Like, yeah, I love Bob Saget. You know, obviously, like, I watched a lot of America's Funniest Home Videos. You know, I did watch a lot of Full House. Like,
and he
back
took
in the
that
day.
blue turn, which was really fascinating.
Yeah, it wasn't like a blue turn. His comedy was always blue. It's just like most people who like know him from like Full House or something, like they're shocked when they see that, realizing like Danny Tanner
his career took a blue turn, I should say.
Yeah, Danny Tanner was like a role on like a family-friendly sitcom. He wasn't allowed to be blue on that show.
Yeah,
but like his style of comedy was always blue. He just, I guess because the things people most know him for, Full House and America's Funniest Home Videos, are like so family-friendly stuff. You know, like he's not allowed. You know, he couldn't do like his usual material on those programs. But like
he always did blue stand-up, but then he started doing more like he was in Half Baked. Was
that Half Baked? Was he in that?
Yeah.
Okay. I never watched that movie, actually.
He had that scene where the guy was like, one of the characters went to like, it was like a Narcotics Anonymous thing, saying that they were addicted to pot, and his whole line in it was, he said like, he was like incredulous. He's like, addicted to pot. He's like, I suck dick for cocaine. You suck dick for pot, you know, like, kind of like playing on the idea that like it's not an addiction, but like, that was like, you know, that was a really blue turn for the actor. Before that was very much like you said, like family friendly. He always did blue stand up, but like none of his film roles or anything else were like blue. But then like he did some other ones. He was on Weeds. He had a brief stint on Weeds where he was very much a blue character. And yeah, like, so it was just interesting.
Well, he started doing
such a dichotomy to his career.
He started doing stuff in like film and stuff that film and TV, like after Full House, he started doing stuff in film and TV that more fit his brand of comedy.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
It's just interesting. He had two very different careers, you know?
Right. Yeah. He was hilarious in everything he was in, though. Like he was always hilarious.
Yeah, and then the last death we have to talk about is Sidney Poitier.
A legendary actor.
I believe he was the first to win Best Actor, first black man to win Best Actor.
Oh, yeah.
Look Who's Coming to Dinner was like the big movie that he's kind of known for, who's big into like, he's a big figure in like Hollywood pushing for like progressive views and like race and stuff in the 60s. So,
hugely influential, fantastic actor. One of the most all-time greats. One of the all-time greats.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how old was he?
I think he was in his 90s.
So he lived a long, full life as well.
Yeah.
So he definitely, like Bayway, long celebrated career. He had a full life. So again, it's a loss that we all mourn, but.
Yeah. Well, we're the ones that lost because we lost them, you know?
But, I mean, again, making it to like your 90s, you are very fortunate to live that long.
Yeah. But that's, those are some unfortunate deaths that we just wanted to address quickly at the end of the podcast. Next week, as I said, we're going to be talking about Cobra Kai season 4, and we might be talking about Peacemaker. Basically, what we decided is if they dump a lot of this, if they dump the full season or a lot of the season, then we're going to hold off. We'll finish it and then we'll cover the whole thing in a podcast. But if they dump like an episode or two and it's going to be coming out week to week, then we will be discussing that next week. So that's kind of the plan for that. But until then, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Voxel Hero. Check out our website, thetotaliscreen.com. Look us up on YouTube, Pocket Cast or Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. Just look us up. Subscribe. Like and subscribe. And
as always, like and subscribe.
I picture like zombies and like instead of brains, they go like and subscribe. But yeah, so do that and leave us a comment on whatever platform you can leave us a comment on. Probably best on just Twitter to just message us that way. Leave us anything good, bad, or indifferent. Tell us what you think of the show, what you want more of, less of, what you think about anything we talked about, and tell me how bad my views on The Witcher are.
Yeah, go yell at Tyson about The Witcher.
So yeah, just send us any comments, good, bad, or indifferent. As always, thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. visit our website at thetitlescreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.